Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Sean Williams. This is the I Can Project, and I have here with us the Durrel Davis. How you doing, my good brother?
And great, great. Thank you for having me.
Definitely, man, definitely. Now, Durrel, I've known you. We were just having this conversation since 1999.
One of the longest friendships I've had.
One of the longest friendships, over 20 years now.
A blessing.
It's truly a blessing. Now, I know we spoke a little briefly about what the I Can Project is, but it's just pretty much you telling your story. Because we have these conversations all the time. And, I know as human beings, sometimes we could be very private, but I genuinely believe that your story is very powerful. Everybody's story is very powerful, but your story is very powerful. And I know it will have an impact on one of our viewers. I just know, even if it's just one, it will definitely have an impact. So, without further delay, right? Let's slice right into it. So we're going to start off with high school, right? Because that's when I first came in, when I first knew you, right? 1999, Friendly High School, Go Patriots.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about high school Durrel. What's the identity? What are you looking for? What's high school Durrel like?
High school Durrel was everything athletic.
Okay.
I was Mr. Football,
Okay.
track, I played baseball,
Okay.
I wrestled, and I was really in pursuit of playing in the NFL.
Okay.
Going to college was very, very important to me. So I grinded hard. I woke up every morning at 5 a.m. Went to Andrews Air Force Base. I would lift weights before school. I would go to school, be at school on time.
Yeah.
After school, study hall, practice, and then some days I would even go to work. So high school was all about getting to college, and through the grind, through the consistency, I was afforded an opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame at Friendly, so I'm a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah.
And I was afforded four rides to Temple University, so I went to D1A all conference and became a free safety for free. And
because you were a linebacker in high school. I remember you were a linebacker in high school, and you probably don't know this story, but you were probably one of the reasons why I never really pursued my football career. Because for those who don't know, you've been legitimately the same size since, for the most part, from what I remember, the same size as high school. You've just been a very big dude. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you're telling me, because I was extremely small in high school, you're telling me a lot different, right? You're telling me I got to tackle someone that, you know what, y'all got it. I'm good. I'm just going to go do something else.
And honestly, we had a very, very unique team at the time.
Yeah.
Because we had athletes like Jimmy Crank.
Yeah.
We had Tim Anderson.
Yeah.
Damian Johnson. We had guys that were like in excess of 240 pounds.
Correct.
We had this one kid that name was Burnell, like 6'4", 300 something. So hitting the weight room was important to me.
Yeah.
So I was just uniquely blessed with size. I wrestled at 189 in high school. I fight at 185. So it's crazy.
It's crazy.
My body's totally different.
Yeah.
My flexibility, my mobility, because through the consistency of the fitness and the health and wellness journey, I've been able to learn my body different. In high school, I took my body for granted.
Yeah.
It was just get up, go, run.
Exactly.
Now at 37, stretching is imperative. Getting in the hot tub, recovery time is important. And then also just mobility work, because a lot of times people see athletes and think it's just all about lifting weights.
Correct.
How much can we lift? But it's more so for me the effectiveness in my technique.
Correct.
And being able to have a proper movement pattern. And that's one of the biggest things I share with my clients, because anybody can lift something wrong one time.
I mess it all up.
That's it.
And that's it, yeah.
So I try to make sure that I stayed within a space where I was always athletic enough to go back to the football field after I lost my scholarship.
Gotcha.
So that is kind of probably why I'm still the same size. I still want to be able to turn it on as if I was a football player if I needed to.
Exactly. No, I'm with you. Well, you touched on something. So you worked this hard in high school to get a D1 scholarship, Temple University, playing free safety. And then you just touched on it a little bit, and you said you lost it. What happened? If you don't mind sharing.
So what really happened, then I'll give you the story that caused me to lose my scholarship. So what happened, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing. Dealing cocaine opened me up to a world of experiences I was not prepared for. Not only just in money management, managing relationships, managing time, and then managing it myself. And I think I lost my scholarship because within the street life, I lost sight of myself. Because the things that were once important, being on time for class, making sure I was at a meeting on time, they began to fall wayside to making sure I could get some money.
Gotcha.
Or making sure that the relationship wasn't damaged with the person, whoever gave me the product. Like
gotcha.
So many other things became a part of my thought process that was not once a part of my high school thought process.
Gotcha. So what was the change then? Like, so you know, when we started talking, you were saying that, you know, in high school, you're the athlete, right? My goal is to get to the NFL. I need to go to college. I've, you know, satisfied that portion of things. What changed, right? Was it just I need the money, or did you lose your identity? What changed?
It was almost a combination of the two. So what I want to say, set the foundation for the change. My parents went through a divorce.
Okay.
And at the time of their divorce, they filed for bankruptcy. And their bankruptcy affected my finances by the means that my mother had opened up a custodial account for me.
Okay.
So everything that I had coming from my scholarship, 810 checks, Pell Grant checks, were in this account got seized. I was unaware that this was going to happen. So one day I went to swipe my card.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
And I'm like, no, this can't be true. This can't be true. And then I have to call my mom. And of course, they weren't being honest with me about what they were going through. So they didn't have a real explanation for me. All they could say was, hey, we're going to try to get the funds back for you. And it never materialized. So I was like immediately faced with some hardships.
Yeah.
I made some impulsive decisions.
Okay.
So I knew some people at the time. I'm like, I bet. I need $3,000 to pay my rent. Yeah. I need this to get by. Let me go talk to my friend, see what he's willing to do for me. And that's kind of how I got into a game that was way too fast for me.
Yeah.
Now in high school, I said that I was everything athletic, but what most people did not know about the other side of my life was just some of the financial hardships I had to overcome because my mom had me at 14. So I was working from the time that I was 14, even though I was going to school. Yeah. But simultaneously, while I was working, I was doing things like selling weed. Okay. Things I had no business doing. Yeah. Because it was a part of the school culture at the time. Okay. And I had a couple of friends that were older because I was a younger football player that came to the school earlier. Yeah. I got into an older crowd. So smoking weed, selling weed in high school became something that wasn't
foreign to you when you got to
I got to college.
Got you.
But it escalated like tenfold once it no longer was something that was grass. Yeah. Something totally different.
Got you.
That I had no experience in.
Got you.
So I lost my identity when I lost my scholarship. And that sent me down a very interesting spiral of self-development.
Okay. And so what was it, you lost your scholarship based on, you know, everything, you're not going to class, grades?
Or did you? What happened is I got locked up. And no one at my school knew where I was. I was out of state in a whole nother state in Delaware. Okay. And I had gotten into a situation where some people went to a hotel that led to me being locked up with possession of cocaine. Okay. So now I'm in Wilmington, Delaware, in Gander Hill Prison. And the only people that I could reach out to was my mom. And so I missed probably 2 or 3 weeks of class, no call, no show to practice. Yeah. So everybody's, you know, like wondering where I am, but also speculating at the same time. And what happened?
Wait, well, hold on. So you say also speculating. So did the people at the school, did they know what you were going through, or were you able to live a double life, a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of situation where, you know, when I'm in the streets, I'm in the streets, and when I'm in school, I'm on school? Or did it like kind of spill over?
This is where they clashed.
Okay.
This me being incarcerated with class. You couldn't have told my coach. You couldn't have told my professors. You probably couldn't have told my girlfriend at the time that I was living a double life. But there were teammates of mine. There were people that went to school that knew how heavily I was involved. And when I went missing, they began to suspect that I was involved in some activity that happened on campus.
Gotcha.
So someone on our campus at the time was murdered. And it happened in a fraternity house. And it was said that I had something to do. So when my coach got that rumor, that's when they pulled my scholarship. He didn't even know where I was at.
Got
he
you.
didn't know what was going on.
You were missing. Someone got murdered on campus. 2 plus, it gotta be him. Got you.
I come back to school with, the court documents, everything, just to effectively try to communicate, what was going on with the coach, with the program, and just to find out where I could pick up.
Yeah.
And it was on that day, he told me I could no longer play football for Temple University. And that was probably the most gut-wrenching feeling I've ever had in life till today. And I felt some pretty low things.
Yeah.
But nothing lower than that.
And I actually was going to ask you that, right? As to, this is something that since high school, you've built up your whole, this is where I want to be. This is my goal. And just like that. What was your mind space? What was your head space at that point? Once that happened, what was your identity at that point?
I was blank. I was numb. And I was so hurt that I did almost everything self-destructive to cope because I had no positive coping mechanism. I could no longer go to the facility to lift weights. I could no longer get access to the places where I would, run and use the track.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a scholarship athlete. So I went head first into everything negative. I was not only into selling drugs, I began to use drugs, abuse myself because I had no more self-worth.
Yeah.
Everything that was worth working out for was no longer of importance because I had to figure out, what am I going to do now? I'm in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I have to find somewhere to live. I'm now also facing parole because I just got locked up in Delaware. So I have a whole different set of struggles that I have to adjust my mindset to be a part of. And none of it felt good. None of it felt good. And I fell victim probably to everything that most people that fall victim to the culture do. So if it was in the music, I would do it.
Got you. Okay, well, that comes to the point, right? Because I was just literally just telling Crank the road to Damascus moment, right? That when Saul goes from Saul to Paul, where was your road to Damascus moment? Where was that fork in the road where, I'm doing everything that is negative at this point? I've lost myself, I've lost my identity. When was that road to Damascus moment for you?
My road to Damascus happened in 2010. In 2010, January 2010, I was arrested in a very unique fashion.
Okay, so what's the timeline, right? So we graduated 2003. Okay, so how many years in Philly?
In Philly, I was in Philly to 2007.
2007. You were playing football.
Playing football till 2005.
Right, so from 03 to 05, football, 05 to 07, just still in Philly, doing everything underneath the sun.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, then at one point, do you transition somewhere else or you stay in Philly?
So no, I transitioned to Maryland and I attempt to get back into school.
Okay.
Get into Bowie State.
Okay.
But I still have 1 foot in school, 1 foot in the streets. And finally, this is where God is dealing with me because I refuse to deal with myself. and that's the only way I can really put it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful now being able to look back at it now. This is 12 years supposed to be incarcerated, and it was probably the best thing that has happened to me.
Wait a minute. Well, hold up. I think you wouldn't be the first. So you're saying being incarcerated was the best thing that ever happened to you? Please, I'm curious. Let me know.
So it forced me to sit still and deal with myself. I can no longer be distracted by the phone. I can no longer be distracted by the music. I can no longer be distracted by my emotions or my cravings. I just had to sit and deal with myself. And I had to ask myself, God, how did I go from being an all-conference free safety, playing in front of 100,000 people, to now sitting in a room that's maybe 4 feet by 3 feet behind a slab of concrete, just looking out of the wall, trying to hear what's going on in my cell. And I had to be faced with some like, okay, well, where did it start?
Yeah.
How did I get interested in drugs? Where did the pain come from? And what made me decide that doing the wrong thing was the best thing?
Okay. And what were the answers to those questions? We all have these, I mean, I don't want to say we all have, but we have questions for ourselves. And were you able to answer those questions?
I was.
Okay.
And the root answer of my trauma was based on a childhood experience with sexual abuse. And it started as early as 5 years old. It continued again to 9. And the latest memory I have was 14 years old, where it was both my aunt and my uncle.
Okay.
And what happened is there was this whole sexual abuse piece, and then there was this physical abuse piece where I couldn't even communicate with my dad to tell him what was going on. So I began to internalize everything, and I began to believe that I was the source of the trauma because of something that I did. I was the reason that these bad things were happening to me, so I began to act out.
Okay.
I began to smoke weed to deal with how I felt. As early as 6th grade, I was smoking weed. As early as 7th grade, I believe I remember skipping school and beginning to try to find ways to assess or demonstrate that I wasn't the kid that was being hurt. So I wanted to show everybody how tough I was. I wanted to show everybody how physically aggressive I was because I was hurting on the inside and I couldn't express it.
Gotcha.
And that was the root source of so many of my behaviors as it matured post-high school. My sexual relationships, my emotional relationships, and my relationship to myself was lost in the inability to be true to myself because I never expressed that, hey, I'm hurting behind this and I need somebody to help me deal with it.
I would have never, literally, I mean, again, I've known you since we were in high school, since 9th grade, and what I received or what I perceived was happy Durrel. I don't think no one person could have spoken ill about you, right? Because you weren't just a stereotypical football guy. You legitimately was always in every circle, and everybody is all smiles. Everybody loved Durrel. It's like I couldn't think of one person to say one ill thing about you, right? So when you're telling me this, it's like, man, I would have never, if anyone would have came up to me and was like, do you know Durrel's really hurting on this? I'd be like, that guy? Nah, that guy got it all. He missed the football, he this, he that.
I was going through, but those were ways that I coped as a teenager that I didn't know was healthy, that I now found as an adult is my actual coping mechanism. This is where I'm my healthiest, when I'm in this rhythm of fitness, when I'm in this rhythm of exercise and working out. When I don't get in this rhythm, I have to assess what's going on.
Gotcha.
But I didn't realize that at a young age, I just threw myself into everything to create friends, but to also stay out of the house.
Okay. I mean, I could see that. Again, I would have never thunk it. But now let's fast forward again back to 2010. So you're answering these questions for yourself. And how long, if you don't mind me asking, how long were you
So I was
told to sit?
I was told to sit for 14 years.
Okay.
Which was another gut-wrenching
moment.
But it still didn't feel worse
So you're telling me, Aaron, you got 14 years, you got to sit behind the wall for 14 years. It's nothing compared to we're pulling your scholarship. Wow.
Because I knew at the time when they pulled my scholarship, I was already in communication with the Jets, Steelers. People that were on the defense that I played with were already in the upcoming draft.
Gotcha.
So all I had to do was finish my next year.
Yeah.
All I had to do was finish my next year.
So it was right there. It was right,
I still get goosebumps thinking about it.
Man, that's crazy.
But it was what was supposed to happen so that I could understand and value the opportunity that I had now. So when the judge told me, His name was David Chappelle.
I know Judge Chappelle.
Judge Chappelle sentenced me to 14 years.
Wow.
And he said, you know what? I'm going to suspend 10 of them. I said, thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.
And they sent me to DOC for 4 years.
Okay.
When I got to DOC.
Did you stay local or did they send you up to?
I went to Jessup.
Okay, Jessup. Okay.
Yeah, so I started in Charles County.
Yeah.
In Charles County for 6 months. And then in October, November, when I got sentenced, they sent me to Department of Corrections. I remember my first Thanksgiving in Brockbridge. Like Thanksgiving, Christmas in Brockbridge was very, very interesting.
Yeah, there's a little different. It's a different lifestyle up there. It's a very different lifestyle up there.
And what I didn't expect was that I was gonna get hit with 14 years because this was my very first real cocaine distribution charge.
Gotcha.
My very first charge ever.
So hold up. So they charged you with possession with intent to distribute. The PWID. Okay.
I got possession with intent to distribute, and I got charged with the controlled dangerous
substance. Correct.
But my very first charge, which I had no understanding, they were gonna tie this in. My first charge happened in Delaware. I got charged with possession of a firearm. Okay. In Delaware. So that bumped me up from being the minimum guidelines.
Yeah, to my yeah. But so this is how sentencing guidelines work. Your past always catches up to you with sentencing guidelines, and it's literally it's wild because it's this sheet. It's a MAGS sheet where you go in the state of Maryland. You literally, being a former prosecutor, I had to complete a lot of these sheets, right? And you literally, there's a questionnaire that they ask: is it a victimless crime? What is their prior? Is it, and that you have an offender score as well. And based on all of this, it spits out a sentencing guideline for the judge. You got minimum probation, maximum 25. I mean, it's a range, and the judge has literally carte blanche to what he wants to do as long as it's within the sentencing guidelines, right? And it's a lot of folks don't know that because, as a defense attorney now, I've had situations where the individual's like, all right, I just want to cop. Let me just cop this real quick. This ain't nothing. And it's like, no. You just don't quickly cop to something, because if you intend to go right back into this lifestyle, this quickly cop into something because you just want to get out, right? They'll give me time served and I'll be good to go. C'est la vie. Yeah, but this could potentially impact you in the future because it's points. You're adding points to your sentencing guidelines. So these are the conversations that I have to have with clients sometimes when they just want to quickly just cop to something rather than, well, let's quickly review discovery. Let's see if there's even a potential of having a trial here rather than I just want to quickly get out, then quickly just cop to something.
You see, I didn't want to take mine to trial because I saw the evidence.
Okay.
I knew I was.
Yeah, you knew, yeah.
And if I took it to trial, the only thing they would have had to do was bring the person.
Got you.
But by the time I saw the picture of myself.
Yeah, no, that's me right there. That's definitely me.
And not only, I knew the outfit, I knew the I'm like, dang, I know he got me.
Yeah.
So I took the plea deal.
Okay.
And he ended up giving me 7 years on each charge.
So he hit you back to back. So he hit you with a consecutive kind of situation. Oof.
So he suspended the 10, and they sent me up the road with the 4.
Okay. And
that's where the road to Damascus began.
Got you.
Once I got to Brockbridge, and I won't even say it started in Brockbridge.
Yeah.
My road to Damascus started when I got in trouble in prison for the same thing that sent me to prison.
Really? Let's expand on that. So you're in prison, you're sitting still. No. Okay.
So I was in prison, and somehow I was blessed to make it on the road crew.
Okay.
So I had access to going in and out of the prison.
Okay.
And I found out that there was also a subculture of people bringing things into the prison.
Gotcha.
Which was a means to revenue.
Yeah.
So I just quickly went back to what I knew.
Yeah.
And I quickly began to have access to marijuana, cell phones, and tobacco in prison. And what happened, I got caught on a dirty urinalysis in prison.
Okay.
I didn't know that they gave urinalysis.
Yes, okay, so that's another thing. Let's see, that's another thing. Yes, they do, especially if you're charged with a possession or possession with the intent to distribute, they will do, and sometimes it's random, right? So you never know. Or sometimes it could be a situation where someone has some kind of inclination, okay, well, this individual is part of the distribution chain in prison. If we pop him with a dirty urine, then we got him, right? He got to sit still.
So they catch me in Brockbridge. They send me from Brockbridge to Central Laundry. They sentence me to 6 months in the hole because of this dirty urinalysis. But now, where I do my time is no longer in a pre-release center. I was sent to a maximum security prison. Wow. I was sent to MCIJ.
With the killers, like you're with.
And that's where okay, now this is prison.
Yeah, that's prison. That's a little different.
Brockbridge was more like it was a camp.
Yeah.
So Brockbridge was still vicious in itself, and I see some crazy things happen. But instead of being in a cell with someone, you're locked in a dorm with about 100 inmates sleeping bunk to bunk.
Yeah, it's general pop. Yeah. If it happened, it happened. You better
be ready.
Yeah.
Right. But Brockbridge was. MCIJ was totally different. Yeah. Because these are people that got 50 years.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose. Zero.
Gang life was totally different. And I went from a prison where I knew everybody because I was there for 2 years.
Yeah.
To now I know nobody.
Yeah.
And that 6 months in the hole forced me to really ask myself, do I want to get out of prison? I had an opportunity to go for parole in December. And this was now June. I was sitting in the hole, and I needed to figure out how I could get communication to the parole board to let them know that I was in MCIJ so I could get this hearing. And I got really into lifting weights at MCIJ, but I also really got into the Bible, but not so much just from the biblical standpoint. I began to do external readings. I began to read about the Council of Nicaea. I began to read about the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. I began to read about other things. I began to read about more science. I began to tap back into a love and a thirst for knowledge that I remembered from my old self. And I remember also falling in love with music at the time in a different capacity. Because we would listen to, if you guys had like MTV, we used to have VH1, they used to come to the box.
Yeah, the box, yeah.
So they would play the box in the prison, and he would talk about joy and pain, like sunshine and rain. Yeah. And then the next song would come on, would be happy feeling. And they would play these songs. I'm like, man, God, if you allow me to get out of here, I'm gonna make somebody else feel just as happy as me feel. And I didn't know what I would be doing or how I would be doing when I came home. Yeah. I just knew, God, you gave me a second opportunity. Very similar to just like my prayer for football. Like, God, if you put me in the field.
Yeah, I'm going to put in the work. So I'm going to put in the work.
I began to just, do things that will occupy my time in prison so that I would not make the same mistakes I made in Brockbridge. So I would program. I would go to anger management classes. I went to a program for purpose-driven life. I went to a program for learning how to speak to individuals using I statements. Yeah. And that was probably like one of the most powerful programs that I did in my life. And I also, at the time, I joined the Christian church, and I was doing work for the Muslims in the form of bringing their food to the Jumu'ah. So I was always moving.
You were moving. You didn't have no opportunity to do anything else.
Yeah. So I developed a really great relationship that kept me out of my cell. But it allowed for me to really find out what was being true to myself. I didn't enjoy being in trouble. Yeah. I didn't enjoy getting in trouble in prison or getting sent to prison. So I needed to stop this cycle or circle of bad behavior. Yeah. And it really became in working on myself. And at the same time that I was doing this personal self-work, I didn't tie into the fact that this was probably the most disciplined that I had been in the weight room. So because MCIJ is different than Brockbridge, the schedule's the same every day, all day, and I'm no longer on road crew. Yeah. So when my cell popped, I went to the weight room in the morning.
Gotcha.
My cell popped, I went to the weight room in the afternoon. if we were in the day room playing cards, I was pull up, I was doing push-ups, and I quickly went from 189 pounds to 260 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, I left prison 269 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, big neck, back, arms, huge, but also my diet was unhealthy. But what was very healthy was just my muscle endurance and working out in that fashion.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you're working out three times a day, or twice a day, 2 a days.
And
not a lot of cardio, just straight.
Just lifting.
Just lifting.
And pig iron. We didn't really have much dumbbells. So everything was on the bar. We couldn't take the weights off the bar. All kind of very, very weird. But and it wasn't like Brock Bridge where you had grass. It was all concrete. So everything was just lifting.
Yeah.
So now.
So what I was actually about to go. So you go from this structured environment. I mean, it's an environment, but it's as structured as it be, and you programmed yourself to be very structured. There is an end. There is a finite time to this. When was your release?
I was released in January 2012.
Okay.
Almost January 19th, 2012.
Okay. So January 19th, 2012, you're back to Wild Wild West. You have access to everything, anything. You could literally go right back to 2003 to 2010, Durrel. What's your mindset? You out, free and about. What's your mindset? You don't have that structure anymore.
I was so scared.
Okay.
I was so scared. The easiest thing to do is the wrong thing. It's hard to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing for me to do was come home and slip back into the mistakes that got me in trouble. But they also, they appealed to me because those were the only people or circles that I knew at the time. So I had to change people, places, and things in order to not even fall back into.
It's funny that you say that. It's really funny. I mean, we hear the old adage as to, I could tell you where you're going to be based on the people that you're around kind of situation. And, we hear that, but to actually be conscious of it, right? To actually be conscious. And I find myself trying to be very, very intentional about who I have around me, what I do, and that structure you were speaking of. I've not been incarcerated, but I gotta keep a structure because I know myself as well. I can be very impulsive. One thing I've also learned about, because learning about oneself, is I have an obsessive nature. So if I like something, I like it. I'm going to, at one point I was eating freaking Panera bread.
On the regular.
On the regular, every single day. Yeah, it's just what it is because I liked it. So, you're back to the free world. Okay, I got to change my friends. What else did you feel like you had to, your circle. What else did you feel like, okay, in order for me to not revert back to what I know, what do I need to do?
I had to heal, and I didn't know that I needed to heal.
How so?
I had to mature my mindset so that the things that were negative or adverse to me were no longer positive. It's like a fat person that has to stop eating cookies.
Okay.
And you gotta stop eating cookies.
Yeah.
But you're addicted to the sugar in the cookies.
Okay.
And you have an addictive behavior personality.
Yeah.
So if you don't replace these cookies with something, you're gonna go down.
Yeah, you're gonna go right back to the cookies.
Yeah. And that's how it was for me. But it was a sweet thing. So I had children also. And a part of my story I didn't give you was that my father was incarcerated. Never in my life. My mom had me at 14. So one of the biggest pain points in my life was doing to my kids what my dad did. So I did not want to go back to prison. Yeah. But I also knew that I would go back to prison if I did not learn how to be successful minus the bad behavior.
Gotcha.
So that was developing financial literacy, going back to school, and figuring out what you want to do with yourself.
Okay.
So I started going back to school.
Okay.
And I got my degree. I got my bachelor's from Bowie State University and graduated in 2017.
Okay.
Simultaneously, I don't know how I pulled this one off, but the same year I got my bachelor's, I opened up my first facility in Fort Washington.
The one, the old one.
Yeah.
And you know, the crazy thing is, just looking from back then to where you are now, and we're going to take a tour of the facility, it was a sweat box. It legit was a sweat. The old facility, if you want, it felt like something off of, I don't know if you've seen Rocky, I think it was Rocky 3, where Rocky had to go train with Apollo Creed down in the trenches or whatnot. But it was like a sweat box. If you wanted to work out, you wanted to sweat, that's the spot. That was not pretty, but you was gonna get the work. All right, so Durrel, we've gone to the portion of the I Can Build, and you know I'm actually, because I enjoy working out with you, I'm gonna go switch up, and we're gonna go Team Superhuman real quick, and we're gonna talk about how, because we touched on how your first gym, because this is your second one now, so your first one, your location number 2, your first gym in a little bit further down for Washington, how you went from one location to location number 2. So we'll be right back, right?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.